There is a version of you that would drive 20 minutes out of the way to avoid paying a $5 parking fee, but wouldn't drive 20 minutes to save $5 on something you actually wanted to buy. Same $5, same 20 minutes. Wildly different motivation. Something in your brain treats those two situations as completely unequal, and it's not a coincidence. This shows up everywhere once you start looking. You keep a gym membership you never use because canceling feels like losing the progress you imagined making. You refuse to throw away a receipt for something you'll never return. You reread an old text message, hoping it says something different this time. None of this is really about the gym or the receipt or the message. It's about your mind's refusal to let go of anything it's already claimed as its own. Why would losing something small feel bigger than gaining something equal? Imagine you're playing a simple game with a friend. They flip a coin. Heads, you win $50. Tails, you lose $50. Would you play? Most people say no, immediately, without doing any real math. The odds are perfectly even. Statistically, it's a fair bet. But your gut doesn't care about statistics. It cares about the $50 you might lose, and that fear outweighs the $50 you might gain, even though they're mathematically identical. That gut reaction is called loss aversion, and it was formally identified by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky in the late 1970s. Their research, later published as prospect theory, found something remarkable. When people were asked to weigh potential losses against potential gains of equal size, the pain of losing consistently outweighed the pleasure of winning by a factor of roughly 2 to 1. In plain terms, losing $100 doesn't just feel bad, it feels roughly twice as bad as gaining $100 feels good. Why would your mind be built this way? Because for most of human history, a loss wasn't just inconvenient, it was dangerous. Losing food, shelter, or standing within your tribe could threaten your survival, while missing out on an extra opportunity rarely did. Your brain adapted to treat loss as an emergency and gain as a bonus. That wiring hasn't updated, even though the modern world rarely puts your survival at risk over a coupon or a canceled plan. Psychologist Richard Thaler expanded on this with an experiment involving something as ordinary as a coffee mug. He gave people mugs, then asked how much they'd sell them for. Separately, he asked people who didn't own a mug how much they'd pay for one. The owners, on average, demanded nearly twice as much as the buyers were willing to pay for the exact same mug. The only difference was ownership. The moment something becomes yours, some part of your brain decides it's worth more, and letting it go starts to feel like a loss, not a neutral transaction. Here's the part that gets stranger. This same wiring shapes decisions that have nothing to do with money. Think about someone who avoids ending a friendship that quietly drains them, or a person who keeps working toward a goal that no longer excites them. It's rarely because the friendship or the goal is genuinely worth keeping. It's because ending it feels like admitting a loss of time, of effort, of the person they thought they'd become. Meanwhile, the actual cost of staying, day after day, barely registers because it doesn't feel like a single dramatic loss. It feels like nothing at all until years have quietly passed. You can see this bias hijack attention online too. A single critical comment on something you posted can sit in your mind for hours, replaying, while a dozen kind ones fade within minutes. The negative feedback registers as a loss to your sense of self. The positive feedback registers as a small, forgettable gain. Your brain isn't broken for reacting this way. It's just applying an old survival rule to a world built entirely out of small, meaningless stakes. Knowing this changes how you can catch it in real time. The next time you feel a strong urge to avoid a choice, ask yourself honestly whether you're avoiding an actual loss or just the feeling of loss. Ask what you would choose if you were seeing the situation for the first time, with nothing already invested. That single mental shift strips away most of the noise loss aversion creates and lets you see the decision as it actually is. That $5 parking fee was never really about the money. It was about the discomfort of watching something leave your hand, even something you were always going to spend anyway. Now that you know the name for that discomfort, you'll start noticing it everywhere, in the choices you make, the things you keep, and the moments you're too afraid to let go of. If you caught yourself nodding along to any of this, there's more where that